So we're gathered together at this point to remember the struggles of those who fought with us and for us, and commemorate the brave soldiers also not here today who have passed away or absent.
Remember that the Bristol Omnibus Company was a state-owned company. So the UK state was implementing a colour bar. They were not going to have black Asian people working on the buses. Never forget just how much it takes to stand up in the face when everything, you know, is against.
We were living in a hostile environment, COVID over racism in a hostile environment. No blacks, no Irish, no dogs. People also refused to sit beside us on the buses. The march went without hitch. There was no reason for me to run and hide. And I felt really proud and glad that I was able to do that.
We did very peaceful demonstrations. No violence, no nothing. And we persevered, meeting after meeting, you know, and we gathered as much information that we could and people to come and join us that had more in-depth knowledge of racism. So we continued and just pressed on and never gave up until we got what we wanted.
I didn't know about this until I got a call from production saying that they want to make a documentary about the Bristol Bus Boycott. It wasn't until I started meeting people and talking to them and sitting down and having conversations that I really realised how important this story is. And then it kind of made me feel sad because, I mean, me, my family, loads of young people that grow up in Bristol don't really know about the boycott. I think the stuff that, you know, the generations before did, that was really powerful and that was really, really strong. And I think that's the reason why we have the sort of courage to even want to do stuff and replicate those kind of things today.
Now, there are people who didn't want to rock the boat 60 years ago. There were people who tried to find a middle ground between right and wrong. Those Race Relations Act codified and actually began to make real change. And as a large employer, and those which actually provide physical mobility, I am deeply aware of what we can do and what we will do. And rest assured, you have my advocacy.
My father decided that he wanted to take up the opportunity because the door had been opened for him to now apply for a job. And he applied and became a conductor to start with, and it took him literally almost a year before he both heard that there was an opportunity to be a bus driver and then actually taken up the opportunity to train and then go for his test. And I remember my father telling very vividly that the day that he had the opportunity to take his test, there were people lining on the route that he was taking because they could not believe a black man was going to be behind the wheel of a bus.
The campaign led by Paul, Guy, Roy, Audley, Owen, Barbara, Prince, and many others thought about the actions that ultimately led to the 1965 and 1968 Race Relations Act, which outlawed discrimination in public places. But I want to acknowledge and pay tribute to everyone who marched, who boycotted and stood shoulder to shoulder with Bristol's black and Asian communities until that colour bar was removed.
Uncle Guy walks in and he said, "I'm here for my 2 o'clock appointment interview." And she went round the back room, but my uncle heard everything. She said, "Your 2 o'clock is here and he's black." The manager then said, "Well, we don't take black people. Tell him there's no job." So then she came back out and passed on that message, but he heard everything. Anyway, went back to Paul. They talked about it and decided, nah, we have to do something about this. And the bus boycott started from then.
The British said, come to the mother country, there's plenty of jobs and opportunities here for you. I mean, there's plenty of vacancies, plenty of choices. I mean, there's really nothing that you cannot do. Look at it like Dick Whittington coming to the streets, paid with gold. Who knows? Perhaps you can become the mayor of Bristol, Marvin, if you can put up with the rain and the cold. We'll be bank managers and liars, doctors, people with letters after our name. We'll become rich and successful. And we'll let our family back home share our fame. But when my people arrived, they found this just wasn't the case. There were plenty of jobs, but for those with the right coloured face.